What's up, Francisco?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, very well, dude. Very well. How about yourself?
Good. Yeah, lots of things to do, but
Tell me about it. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how you going?
Oh, another peachy day in paradise.
Excellent.
How's down
Are you still
under?
over in Thailand?
Yeah. My desk
Nice.
in my house.
Very
Feels weird to
cool.
say in my apartment. It's been so long.
That's cool. I'm just kind of lurking here, so I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, same.
hey, hello everyone.
Hi.
Nice. Looks like we've got a pretty good turnout. Let's get started, I guess. Hey everyone, this is the PeerDAS breakout call. Yeah, it's so we've moved to like a rolling breakout call time. So this week it's 10 a.m. UTC, but next week we're going to be moving back to the usual time. Okay, see if we have everyone now.
So about this, should we actually move next week back to this time and then like get on the right cycle, because Fossil is next week at 3. Like somehow we moved the wrong week.
All right, so maybe so you mean we keep the same time for next week and then flip
Yes, that's
the week after. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'll set that up. Cool. Okay, great. I guess maybe we can start with some client updates, and I can probably talk about Lighthouse first. So with Lighthouse, we've mainly focused on refactoring this week, and it's just fixing some sync issues that we've ran into on DevNet 4. We've also implemented the fix to unsubscribe from the blob topics at the Tulu fork. And we had a sync issue where the sync doesn't start until like 5 minutes later. We have a fix for that, and we are currently testing that fix. And then last breakout call, we proposed to have a COI flag to delay block and column publishing. And we've got an external contributor working on that, and it's currently under review. So we should have that delay block publishing flag ready soon this week. And that's all for Lighthouse. I will pass it to Teku. Is Teku here, Dimitri?
Yeah, here. We had a bug when we were requesting blob set cards from other nodes. In some cases, we found and fixed it. We have improved data columns at Cars Cache, but we are going to rework it. And currently we finish reconstruction. It was not working. And so we want to make it working so we could be able to pass fourth scenario. That's all.
Nice. Thank you, Dmitry. Prism?
Yes, hey. Uh, so yeah, during this week, yes, we had a bug in Prism because Fulu is the first fork where the beacon block and the states are the same than in the previous fork, which caused some issues with Prism. So I work on that, and now it's solved. Also, we totally changed the way we store blobs in our database. And so it impacted a lot also data columns because we store data columns the same way we store blobs. So basically now it works well. With Kev, still we are still using CKZG and not Go KZG, and Go KZG has still a little worse performances compared to CKZG. And we are working with Kev on this topic. And yeah, we continue to work on validator custody. I wrote a little design document about how we want to implement validator custody and actually how we began to implement validator custody in Prism. And yes, that's pretty all. Lodestar?
Got ourselves syncing. Everything is working. Although we're having an issue with Geth that I think Perry noted when he restarted the rest of the clients, and also there's issues on the DevNet. So we've got our nodes running in our clusters at ChainSafe, and everything's working correctly. Went through a pretty big refactor this week, just trying to make sure that it's easier in order to find these bugs. And then we started on the validator custody. Didn't make a ton of headway, but that'll be probably over the next 2 weeks. We're going to start get that over the hump.
Nice. Thank you, Matt. Is Nimbus around? Do we have anyone from Nimbus? Doesn't look like it. What about Grandine?
Yeah, so for the last week, we have been find the bug on our syncing logic. So we have been fix that issues. Basically, it's just a missing a single slot at the fork boundary. So find it and we fix it, and then we tried. We have been able to try to sync our full node with the current running DevNet. So it is able to sync in the optimistic nodes, but not for the super nodes. And currently, we still have to refactor our syncing logic. Yeah, that's all from Randy.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. And I guess we can move on to DevNet updates. Is Perry around?
Yeah,
yeah.
I can the DevNet update. So Petra DevNet 6, PeerDAS DevNet 4 basically launched with a version of a fork of Geth. However, that forks also continued to get some updates, and we decided to pin like a certain hash that has all of the commits we want but doesn't do anything on Fulu. However, it seems that when we're doing some sync testing, there's one block that's still produced in Electra by the old fork that isn't able to be imported with the new one. When we tried using the old commit for syncing, that also wasn't working as expected. Rather than spending more time kind of debugging it, because it feels like a one-off that just wouldn't happen usually, we thought it would be prudent to just reset the DevNet. So exact same specs, exact same everything. It'll just be a brand new DevNet, and we can move on with sync testing. We have not tried any other ELs. It could very well be if we just switch to another EL, it's fine. But we just want to kind of avoid time having to debug this if possible. So mainly wanted to see if everyone's okay with that.
So I wanted to add something to that, Perry, is that we're running two different versions of Geth. We're doing 14.13 and the PeerDAS branch that was pulled 6 days ago. Does that seem like both should work? And if so, like, do we just use 14.13?
Does 14.13 work for you?
It is like, so we have two separate nodes on the
Yeah.
PeerDAS branch connected to the DevNet. One of them is using 14.13 and one of them is using the PeerDAS tag from 7 days ago now. And both are synced and having no issues.
Interesting. Okay, the PeerDAS one definitely doesn't work for me. So, okay, I can try spending a bit more time on it. And maybe try 14.13 as well. But if not, then I would just bump up the DevNet number. So this would be PeerDAS DevNet 5, but it's essentially the exact same thing. And the main reason we wanted to bump up the number is that there's no confusion about Genesis files, and it's very easy to communicate. And everything we wanted on PeerDAS DevNet 5 just gets moved to DevNet 6. Yeah, I'll give it a shot to see if we can fix this one. And if it doesn't seem worth it, then we'll just relaunch and let everyone know.
Sounds good. Thanks, Perry. Any questions on DevNet? Then we'll move on to, actually, I think Manu had a comment on the agenda. The proposal for the DevNet reset. We kind of briefly mentioned it in the PeerDAS testing channel, whether we want to like test those scenarios. Manu, do you want to briefly talk about it?
Yeah. So my proposal was to sync only 3 out of 5 nodes per client to start the DevNet with 3 out of 5 nodes per client. So in this case, it is not enough to finalize the network because we have only 60% of validators. We wait for 1 day, and 1 day after we start 1 out of 5 new clients. It should finalize again. And so with this test, we are able to go from DNet to Electra to Fulu in an unfinalized network. And when it is okay, we start the remaining clients. And in this case, we are able to test DNet to Electra to Fulu in a finalized network. Yeah, that was my proposal.
I was just wondering, do you think we want to test all the scenarios on the DevNet, or do we test it on a separate DevNet?
I mean, we already know that on this current DevNet, PeerDAS DevNet 4 with only super nodes, it works well. I mean, for the majority of clients, we could for sure restart the exact same DevNet, but I think it could be a good occasion, a good catch to test syncing with finalized and unfinalized network on this reboot of the DevNet 4, which is actually the DevNet 5.
Yeah, I think the unfinalized stuff, I would just move to a local network. It's relatively easy to do in Kurtosis, and I don't see any big value in having it publicly there, mainly because I think it's very rare that we would ever see a fork transition with an unfinalized network, especially multiple fork transitions. But it is worth testing, so I would propose just doing that locally.
Okay, yeah, I see the point. It's quite an uncommon case. But however, testing in a finalized network is common case. I mean, normally you start to you sync with checkpoint sync, but I think it's still valuable to try to sync from Genesis.
Yeah,
and
that's
to come across epochs, fork. Sorry.
the update I want to do in the next testnet is the testing that's left over from last week. Essentially making sure that Genesis works to begin, Genesis sync works to begin with, checkpoint sync works to begin with, as well as making sure that we can have a network with lesser than 100% supernodes. So
Yeah.
all of these things are stuff that I would prioritize over non-finalized fork transition tests, for example.
Sure. That makes sense.
Great.
Yeah, I note that down. So just to recap, we want to prioritize testing scenarios, the sync scenarios that we were planning to test in DevNet for on the DevNet. And for now, we will just test those unfinalized testing scenarios on the local DevNet. Cool. So we will move on to spec discussion. Does anyone have any spec questions that you want to raise? So I've added a comment to the agenda. So both Manu and Lion has shared some documents on validated custody design. There are some complexities and challenge around implementing this nicely. So I think both of the document kind of describe it pretty well and try to simplify it. So it'd be good if people can have a look at it, and also we can probably just continue the discussion in PeerDAS testing channel, unless anyone wants to talk about it here. Okay, so if there's nothing to talk about for the custody, I guess people would just start implementing it. And another point that I wanted to talk about was the moving proof computation to transaction sender change that we need to do to upload some computation of the CL. So I see that we've got some EL clients here, so I'm kind of keen to hear if there's any discussion points or any questions that people have from reading the proposal.
I can speak for Bessa maybe. So in general, we like the proposal. It seems to be. I mean, we have to include the data availability sampling to the EL, but considering the trade-off that we will be able to include many more blobs into a block, I think that's worth it. Our main question is, I think, and which is still open, is what we are going to do with the existing 4844 transactions. So if we are going to convert them in the node itself, or if we are going to introduce a new transaction type. So I mean that's a bit unclear for us, but in general we are in favor of the proposal.
I think there's some discussion going on how we want to handle this, and it's on the ACD channel. Maybe if Francesco, if you want to kind of keen to hear your idea if you have any thoughts on this.
I mean, I definitely don't think that I'm any kind of authority here. I think this is very much like a question for ELs to figure out. I guess what I don't quite understand is why we're talking about it as if we should be introducing a different transaction type. Like it seems to me like transaction type really refers to the thing that you sign over and not to the network wrapper. And other than that, I guess I mostly just, I mean, my personal feeling is let's go towards the side of having the least kind of like not supporting multiple things long term. Like, yes, it seems nice in principle to still let people submit whatever things in the same format that they're submitting now and converting them in the node. But also that means that, like, are we gonna keep supporting both of these formats forever? And that just seems a bit unnecessary to me. Like, I'd rather just do this one-time transition, which seems pretty straightforward from the perspective of blob submitters. Like, how many blob submitters even is there? Maybe like 30. I don't know, just really not that many entities, and they're all kind of sophisticated entities at the end of the day. So it seems to me like it would be better to kind of go towards the side of protocol simplicity and not having all of these formats to support.
Yeah, thanks, Francesco. Does anyone from the EL teams want to talk about this? If you guys have any thoughts on this?
I'm from Nethermind, Martin Supra here. From our point of view, it's like when we change the form of proofs, it will not be compatible when sending transactions between EL clients. So how we can do it? One option is just a new transaction type, but if we don't want new transaction type, then we can just add support for when we receive a block transaction from other EL by peer-to-peer, then let two forms to be accepted, like one the current form and the other the new one with cells, and it doesn't require a hard fork, so we can do it at any point. And then we can, if when we receive a transaction from RPC endpoint, then translate it from old format to the new one and send to other ELs in this form. But it needs to be done in the same time. So having like accepting two forms for some period of time seems reasonable. And after hard fork, when all the clients will be ready, we can just drop support for old format on peer-to-peer layer, and then in EL's mempools, the transactions will be in a new form, and the only thing which we will be doing is to translate from old format to the new one when receiving transaction from RPC endpoint. But I think it's like implementation details, and it's doable.
Nice, thank you. So do you mean that the RPC endpoint will accept both forms, but if the EL received an old like a EIP4844 form, then it will convert it before it's sent over to P2P. So on the P2P, there's only one form. Is that, or am I mistaken?
Yes, I think so, because like if we want to have it in ELs in a new format, like old format doesn't have sense anymore. So we can have it in new format, and just when sending from one EL to the other, like between peers, it can be in a new format only. So we will translate it only once when receiving it from RPC endpoint.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or concerns on this topic? Cool. It seems like this approach seems like agreed by some people. I guess we can continue the discussion on the PRs once people create some spec change PR to it. Is anyone from the EL team able to start drafting the PR, or like I'm not sure what the usual process is. Okay, so I mean, like we can continue to coordinate async. Just trying to figure out like how we can plan this work forward. So because now we kind of have to work together with the ELs and CLs to make sure that we can ship PeerDAS. So potentially, if we have a spec ready in the next, like before the next DevNet launch, then we'll be doing like an interop with all of the EL clients if possible.
I think one of the open questions that we weren't able to answer, and I was hoping that Mario or someone would be able to, was is this something that goes in the execution spec? Because it's a transaction pool change, right? Is that something that's specified to begin with? As far as I know, the TX pool is very weakly specified.
I think that the first step in any case is to open a PR now to the existing AIP and then to present it at ACDE, because I mean we don't have all the EL teams here, so we need to discuss first and also get their opinion regarding the implementation.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Yes, and I'm not sure if it is in the spec, but what we are doing right now when we receive block transaction from an endpoint, we are validating if commitment proofs, etc., are fine. So we require the number of proofs to be the same as number of block version hashes, etc., and checking it. So it will be changed with the new format for sure. But I don't have the knowledge if this is in spec or it was just coordinated between your clients. Like I'm not the person who was reading it.
Okay, that sounds like PR to the EIP is the first step. Then we present it to ACD, and then parallelly we can have a conversation with the testing team on where best to add tests for this and so on, so client teams can implement it.
Small thing here. There is in the document that Jimmy made. There's also a link to a document that I wrote that's like basically meant to be what maybe the PR to the EIP would be to the networking section. Taplion mentioned that he doesn't really like the nested list in the definition of cell proofs. So I now replaced it with like a just all the cell proofs being listed. I don't know if anyone has any opinions on that, but yeah, that seemed simplest. So I just went with what that plan suggested. Also, another question is, when is the next ACE? Is it, I don't remember anymore. Is it next week or in 2 weeks? Because yeah, or I mean, yeah, I guess which one is the one on Thursday? Just because if we're gonna wait until ACD to like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it sounds like it might be worth trying to coordinate a bit before then, depending on when it is. Okay, so it's just next week. So yeah, I guess that's fine.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, so that sounds like a good next step. Yeah. So I guess Francesco, you already have like most of the changes. Would you mind creating a PR against the EIP?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess I can just do it and people can review there. But if you have any comments before I open the PR, just let me know. As I said, the doc is listed in Jimmy's doc.
I've shared the link as well. Thanks, Francesco.
Yeah, also I'm not sure if there's anything other than this like networking section that needs to be changed. That's what jumped out to me. But yeah, if you have thoughts on what else needs to go in the AIP, let me know.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Francesco. So So it seems like, so I guess on the EL side, like what Perry just said, PR to the IP would be a good first step. And potentially on the consensus spec side, do we want to do it in parallel, or are we would people like to wait for the EIP to be finalized first before we continue? I guess the CL change is a bit more straightforward. It's probably something that we can potentially do in parallel. Any thoughts on this? I've got thumbs up. Okay, maybe we'll just continue the discussion offline on this one. But it seems like yeah, we've got some input from EL, which is great. Yeah, thanks for the EL dev for joining. It's really helpful. Yeah, we'll continue working on that. So next item on agenda. Actually, I think Paul just left a new comment. Is it something that you want to discuss now, or just a comment to the previous comment?
It was more just a comment on Lions HackMD. I really don't know enough about the ENR to know the answer to my question, but I was just wondering if we're not backfilling, maybe we can do something to say the period of time that we have the data availability, so that you've got kind of a middle ground between, Lions proposition is saying we have no history for 18 days, some sort of middle ground where we actually have to find that.
Yeah. Anyone have any thoughts on this? So in the current spec, the last change was that we would, like, once the CGC is updated, a client must do backfill, and until the backfill is completed, the client may choose to update the CGC in the ENR. So they can choose to update it early or update it until the backfill is completed. And what Lion's proposal was that we just don't do backfill at all, and then after 18 days we update the CGC in the ENR. And Paul's saying, is there any middle ground to say that we have a date, that we have a time that we started syncing with the new CGC, so people can start using our endpoints to query columns. Is that what you mean, Paul?
Yeah, that's kind of the gist of what I was thinking. Just some sort of way of saying, yeah, I'm not a supernode yet, like I don't have all of that history, but say I could provide the last 5 days, there's still value in that to the network, right? If we needed to sync things. That was my theory anyway. It might be a silly thing. Line might say that's dumb, but we'll see what happens.
I have a question. Does that mean the node will have to advertise to CGC because they've got one CGC that they currently serve and the new CGC, and then the time when the new CGC becomes effective?
It's a very naive question, so I really can't answer it. It's just an idea. Sorry.
No worries. Any thoughts on this? Okay, thanks for bringing this up, Paul. I think it seems like we just need to dig a bit deeper to see if there's any more ways to simplify this. So, like, I think what Manu and Lion's been trying to do, like both attempting to simplify things, and both look pretty good. So maybe we can just dig a bit deeper and see if there's any particular approach we want to do, or if it needs to be spec'd out. At the moment, it doesn't seem like either of those are breaking the spec. Okay, cool. So any open questions? Okay, sorry, I'm just reading through the comments in the chat now.
For the DevNet, considering the issues with Geth, are there other ELs that are ready? Maybe we could start testing with them.
What is it you specifically want to test with the ELs?
Just turn on, mix them, client diversity.
I mean, we can, but I would prefer not to. Not
Okay.
right now, at least, because in the future we're going to be merging either PeerDAS as well as EOF, and at that point it would make sense to test it. But right now, I would prefer focusing on like PeerDAS bugs and getting them out of the way as much as possible.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think likely in the next DevNet or whenever we have to move transaction proof computation thing ready, we'll need all the EL devs and the EL clients anyway. Thanks for the thumbs up. Any other comments, discussion points? Looks like we're gonna have a relatively short one today, which is good given that we're doing this weekly now. Okay, great. Thanks everyone. I guess we can call it. And just to remind everyone, the next call will be the same time on Tuesday. I'll just create a new agenda that reflects this. And that's all. Thank you everyone for joining the call.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.